there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Wisconsin Weather Experts. You're stuck with me for the next 30 minutes, but we've got some good stuff to talk about on this next episode, and we'll, of course, focus in on all the heat that's in Milwaukee's forecast, especially over the next couple of days. First, though, I want to revisit the tropics. We're going to start with the latest from Hurricane Imelda. Now, hundreds of people, unfortunately, are without power this morning after Hurricane Imelda nearly made a rare direct landfall on Bermuda as a Category 2 storm. The eye technically stayed just south of that area, meaning there was no technical direct landfall, but they still felt the impacts. The storm brought 100-mile-per-hour winds last night. Flooding is also a concern on the island today. Many schools, government officials, and Bermuda's airport are closed. The storm is expected to weaken. In fact, it is already a post-tropical storm, so that's some good news, and it's pushing away from that area. But it is still expected to create dangerous waves as well as rip currents, including along the East Coast. But a lot of progress will be made here now that that storm has passed. And here is also some video that was actually shot right after sunrise this morning. So kind of the first look at what was happening as it became light. There's a Fox weather crew on Bermuda right now, and this is video from them. You clearly can hear the strong wind and see the high waves that continued earlier this morning. Really just incredible video too. That's the break wall. So all of those waves kind of crashing into the rocks, and I can only imagine how strong that wind felt during those overnight hours as that storm was passing. By the way, just fun fact, latest storm, or last storm I should say, to make direct landfall on Bermuda was actually back, I believe, in 2020. So it's even been a few years since they've seen landfall, at least. But now, moving on to more fall-type topics here. Parts of the East Coast has dealt with a dry and warm stretch of weather lately. And we're not just talking what we've experienced over the last couple of weeks. We're talking months and active drought conditions, too. And unfortunately, that may impact fall colors in these really popular tourist destinations that, you go and look at the fall foliage. Fox's Ted Lindner has details.
As we dive deeper into fall, environmental experts are telling leaf peepers to start planning their trips to soak up the foliage, citing how pre-autumn weather has impacted trees in many prime regions across the country.
Really droughty period that started in August, and the leaves have started to change earlier here in Ohio and really pretty much throughout the Northeast than they would normally, mostly because of really dry conditions.
And while Professor Brent Songen of The Ohio State University expects leaf colors to still be bright this season, he warns they may not stick around for long.
We'll probably still have as many sort of reds and yellows, etc., but it'll just happen quicker. So if you're looking forward to getting out there and seeing some fall color, plan to do it in the next couple weeks, because with these dry conditions, those leaves will be falling off pretty quickly.
But the leaves are more than just beautiful. Data indicates trees play vital roles in many states' outdoor recreational economies.
We've shown that outdoor recreation is worth anywhere from $16 to $20 billion per year. And maybe 50% of that value really happens in the fall and is somehow associated with the fall time activities that people engage in. The northeastern U.S. is kind of that place where you have these really vibrant fall colors, and that is closely located to really big cities, right? You got Boston, New York City, pretty close to Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. So people both driving through and people having hikes as well. So there's a huge amount of activity associated with those sort of fall leaf time viewing.
Meanwhile, an area's elevation can also impact when leaves change colors, with trees in higher elevations turning sooner. Ted Lindner, Fox News.
And New York City in particular, and a lot of New England states are still experiencing drought conditions. So in situations like that, the leaves can sometimes just turn brown and kind of curl up and then fall early, really shortening the season. Now back to Wisconsin, our fall colors are unfolding nicely, and that's across the entire state. But we too have had that stretch of dry as well as warm weather over the last month. Meteorologist Holly Baker recaps what we experienced in September.
Welcome to October. Now, we've started off October on a beautiful note, but we have to recap on September. September was an absolutely nice month. We had several days out of the month where the weather was absolutely stunning. Now, we look at our September Milwaukee for specifics, the rain count. So we got up to at least 1.61 inches of rain overall for the month. And when you evaluate 30 days and to only get almost a little over 1.5 inches of rain, we didn't get that much rain. Look at all of the zeros here on our calendar for the days that did receive some rain. So on September 24th was one of our days where we got the most rain, but we didn't even get an inch on that particular day. So right now we're in a deficit when it comes to rain. So we're about almost 1.5 inches below what we should be as far as that rain here in Milwaukee. Now for 2025 so far, we've received up to about 30.32 inches. So we have received a lot of rain so far this year. And honestly, we're above our normal or average here. We're about a little over 2.5 inches above where we would normally be for our rain counts for the entire year. But for September in specifics, we did not get a lot of rain. Now, on the other hand, we started off on a cooler note here for September when we switch over and look at our temperatures. We had several days where we were in the 60s for a weekend. So the first week of September was cooler temperatures, but we made a remarkable recovery. We were ending the month though above our average as well. So as you look towards the middle and ends of the month, you'll start to see a lot more of those days where we hit the 80s and even some of those upper 70s. So we were trending with much warmer weather as we ended the month, and as we start the month of October, especially for the upcoming weekend, temperatures are going to be well above our normal, and our normal around this time is in the 60s, and you see we're ending the month in the 70s here, 80s expected over the weekend. Definitely enjoy those warmer temperatures, because as we recap on October, that's pretty much the entire month, those temperatures will slowly start to decline and look cooler across the entire board.
All right, thank you, Holly. Well, moving on, also Wisconsin, this is so fascinating to me. Cranberry season continues. It runs from late September through much of October, with peak being mid-October, so that is still to come. This is when the bogs are flooded for a unique harvest, creating visually stunning red sea of cranberries against the backdrop of fall foliage. Now, cranberry bogs are mainly in western Wisconsin. You can experience this harvest by driving something called the Cranberry Highway, or attending popular events like the Warren's Cranberry Festival. You can find plenty more information too if you're interested. Just go to travelwisconsin.com. They have all of the places you should stop and all the bogs that you can look at. It's really just so beautiful. I wish we had some here in southeast Wisconsin, but maybe in the future. Now let's talk about your regional weather. You know, there's not much going on here locally. We have very quiet weather. In fact, not even just here locally, but across much of the U.S. A lot of high pressure systems set up out east. There is some rain down in Florida, just some, tropical moisture down in Florida. There's another storm system coming in from the Pacific that's going to impact the Pacific Northwest. They did deal with earlier in the week some heavier rainfall at times and some stronger wind. So they could see that again. It's not quite to land just yet. And I know it looks like even the upper plains, we have a very weak low pressure system just west of us here in Wisconsin. It's not really doing much though, not even bringing much in the way of cloud cover. So we continue our stretch of dry weather. So more sunshine on the way. Always good news when it comes to our weekend. I know we need the rain, but we like when it comes during the week, right? That's what we have the potential for next week. It does finally look like we see a shift in our current pattern. Even if it's brief, it's going to change things up a little bit. Cold front making its way on through later Monday. It's going to bring in at least a slight chance for a few showers here or there, both Monday and Tuesday, and it's going to drop our temperatures back to near normals. So Tuesday, high temperatures back in the 60s, which is where they should be this time of year. Now it is Thursday, meaning we have our newest drought outlook, and I was interested in this one because of how dry it's been over the last couple of weeks. The good news is that there is really no change, especially for us here locally. There is still some a little bit of drought condition in some of our southern communities, or almost the step before drought condition in that yellow area right along the border. But what's interesting, I know we just talked about that fall foliage earlier on. This is the drought that I was talking about, and especially places like Vermont and New Hampshire, that's where all of those trees, you see those vibrant colors during our fall months. So this is not helpful when it comes to their fall foliage season and their fall, in general, tourist season. So it's just interesting to see what other parts of the country are dealing with. Upper Plains and Great Lakes region, with the exception of Michigan, actually doing okay when it comes to rainfall and when it comes to our drought conditions. Now let's talk temperatures. So here here in Wisconsin, we're still pretty comfy, but you can see the warmth. It is surrounding us. Even Chicago will likely be well into the 80s today. Our temperatures are a little warmer than this time yesterday, which is opposite from yesterday because it was cooler yesterday than the day before. But temperatures today, once again, going to reach likely in the 80s out west, including in our inland areas here in southeast Wisconsin. But lakeshore communities will still hover in those low 70s. So we'll have the lake breeze for one more day, but it's really Friday into Saturday that we're going to see those temperatures jumping. There's been no change in our forecast, but notice by Tuesday, it does finally look like we see those temperatures back to where they should be. But even worth mentioning that 66 by that time will be just a touch above average. And we are still on record watch again Friday. That forecast high of 85 is a degree shy of the record of 86 degrees. And then Saturday, I think we'll fall short there, although a lot of times, you know, the second day of a warm stretch is usually a little warmer. Sunday's still in the 80s, not near the record. And by Monday, as we just talked about, we're going to cool things down a little bit. So it's been a very, very quiet stretch here locally, and next week should begin to change that. Now, moving on here to more flood-related topics. When disaster strikes, like our August flooding here in Wisconsin, are your family's memories protected? Probably something we don't often think about. Fox's Heather Sullivan introduces us to a Texas businessman who restores water-damaged photos. Take a look at this.
After seeing so many people lose their precious family photos in Hurricane Harvey, Steve Durgan became inspired.
You drag and you clone all that area.
He became a professional photo manager and restorer, painting with his mouse and artificial intelligence like an artist to help photos tell their tales again.
I use called a clone and stamp tool from Photoshop. So I'll go over here and I will clone that point, put it over here.
Floodwaters can drown printed memories, but Durgan says water isn't the worst problem, it's the mold.
If things get wet, don't panic, because you can clean them and just don't touch the surface or you'll smear it, but you can clean the dirty water off of them and get them dry so the mold doesn't form.
Then Durgan takes a digital photo of the photo and fills in gaps with colors from other parts of the image.
Some chin details with the mother and see if that works, and then maybe shrink it a little bit if it doesn't work. Also, a lot of times I'll try to get a picture, another picture of the little girl.
But while restoration is possible, his best tip...
The best tip is get it digitized before it floods.
He says begin by sorting which photos to digitize.
Tip for that is very quickly, yes, no, maybe. Yes, photos, they're pretty easy. Little baby picture, no, that squirrel that's fuzzy, it's easy. More than 2 seconds, put it in the maybe pile.
Durgan says you don't need to digitize all of your photos, just enough to tell your story.
You want to digitize enough to save your story. You want your story preserved for future generations.
A story that can then be stored safely on a hard drive, a thumbnail, or in the cloud, where storm clouds can't wash away the chapters of your life.
Oh, fascinating stuff right there, right? Well, when it comes to the flooding that we had back in August, we're still kind of feeling the impacts of that, more so in the way of mosquitoes. And you guys know exactly what All right, welcome back, everybody, to Wisconsin Weather Experts. Sorry about before the break, had to change my microphone battery. Moving on, though, so this is an interesting one. It's an industry constantly riding the ups and downs of policy shifts. Work is booming now, but next year there may be more challenges. Jenna Sachs speaks with those riding the solar roller coaster in this Contact 6 report.
So today we're putting on a 19-point-something kW system.
In 2 days' time, this Mequon home will carry 31 solar panels.
That's fair. I have 22 at my house. I mean, it's kind of average. 20 panels is kind of the average.
The panel's new owners will get a 30% federal income tax credit on the installation, saving them thousands of dollars. It's an incentive that's been a big part of the residential solar energy sales pitch in some form for decades. But because of the One Big Beautiful Bill,
That goes away December 31st. It's sort of a driver for a lot of people.
the approaching deadline is prompting a hurry up and buy mentality.
We had that happen already. We had to stop our sales process, as have most of the companies.
Huge demand, more than that people can keep up with. The issue is going to come in getting it all finished before 12/31.
Renew Wisconsin is predicting this boon will be followed by a decline, a 30% drop in residential solar installations.
We'll probably see a lot of consolidation of solar companies, and we'll most likely see a lot of layoffs of workforce.
Fingers crossed we'll not lose a single soul. That's our goal.
Arch Solar plans to keep its crews busy with commercial work. The commercial solar tax credit is still 30% until 2027.
So we just wait for things to change, and sooner or later they will, and in the meantime we hunker down.
From 2020 to 2023, the number of We Energy's solar connections rose 190% before a slight decrease in 2024. As of September 1st this year, the utility connected another 783 systems, a number the industry says no doubt will grow. As for Arch Solar, they're extending their work week to finish another 100 projects by the time tax credits expire at the end of the year.
We're going to be working Saturdays. The guys are all in.
So is there any bright news for the solar industry in 2026 and beyond?
I think the good news is that the domestic manufacturing is going to take place this year. 4 companies are going to build solar cells in the United States, which has not happened yet.
Having them all produced here could possibly be cheaper, but keeping up with demand is going to be hard.
The industry says with utility rates rising, there's still benefit to going solar.
I think solar is here to stay. It's still a viable option for people. The return on investment is still strong.
Over the years, solar tax credits have expired and been revived before. Companies like Arch are accustomed to weathering the political currents.
We call it the solar coaster, and you just hang on for the ride.
A consumer warning if you do plan to install solar panels this year. Your local inspectors and utilities need time to review and connect your system. That process can take weeks. I'm Jenna Sachs, Contact 6.
Thank you, Jenna. Well, coming up, we're going to talk more about fall, more about allergies, more about pumpkins. Stick around for that. Here's a live look outside where the sun is shining. It's going to be a gorgeous Thursday. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody, to Wisconsin Weather Experts on this Thursday. Thanks for staying with us here on Fox Local, as well as our Fox 6 YouTube page. Well, we touched on this a little bit yesterday, but now that it's fall, that means new leaf collection information for you. It's that time of year again. Leaf collection in Milwaukee is happening now. The Department of Public Works says piles should be kept away from sewer grates and raked 1 foot away from the curb. Now, yard and garden waste can be placed on top of leaf piles, but pumpkins should not be added to leaf piles at all. Now, the final sweep will be on November 15th. And some reminders for brush collection. Now, brush should not be placed on the curb lawn between the streets and the sidewalk or in alleys. Also, keep brush out of your leaf piles. Brush collection runs through November 30th. Always good to have that refresher as we are heading into the new season. Now, all of that yard work is probably bringing back your allergies. Now, last week we had the opportunity to sit down with Dr. Gary Stephen. Lisa did. So we're bringing some of that information back specifically for these fall allergies. He is the owner of the Allergy, Asthma, and Sinus Center in Greenfield. He explains what causes an allergic reaction in the fall.
We do see molds for a while. Now, in September, October, mold counts are generally higher as we still have warmer temperatures and the leaves start to fall. We get a lot of fresh decaying in the forests and all of that. And as long as the temperatures are still warm, mold does like to grow in warmth.
And we've got more of that ahead of us, as we know, until next week. So for those who do deal with fall allergies, will they be worse this year than in the past?
Seasons have been getting progressively worse over the last 20 years, which we've expected for a long time. As temperatures increase, trees will produce more pollen per plant. They will produce it for longer, and we've seen that. The peak tree pollen counts are 130% of what they were 20 years ago. The tree pollen season is about 19 days longer. You don't see as much variation in the grass and weed seasons, since they will pollinate based on the amount of light per day, so they are always pollinating at the same time per year.
Now, Dr. Stevens says that allergies affect everyone differently, and your best option is to get tested.
But the interesting thing is you can have people who are highly positive to multiple pollens, but they only have symptoms in the ragweed season. They only have symptoms in the tree season. They might have just as severe reactivity to the other pollens, but they don't cause as many symptoms. So the symptoms are what really drives it.
And to get treated is obviously the best way to go here. If you want more information on allergies and the daily pollen counts, we have a link to Dr. Stevens' website on our website. That's fox6now.com, and of course on this Fox Local app. We covered a lot there so far in this show. If you have any questions, remember we have this QR code. You can just scan it, send in pictures if you have questions about clouds or types of storms, or when winter rolls around about winter forecasting. Please send them our way, and we'd love to dedicate some time to answer them. All right, it's the Great Pumpkin, 2,088 pounds. I would say that's a great pumpkin, right? That's the weight of the pumpkin that took the top prize at a weigh-off in Washington State. The grower of the top pumpkin took home the first place prize of $6,000. Now, if you can believe it, this year's winner was 164 pounds less than last year's winner, which weighed 2,252 pounds. Pretty incredible. And these pumpkins may not be as big, but they are featured on the Pumpkin Express in the Wisconsin Dells. I love this. So the Riverside and Great Northern Railroad bringing back its beloved Pumpkin Express this month. The Railroad and Preservation Society offers scenic rides each October. It goes through the countryside, aboard historic steam engines. Kids 12 and under can get a pumpkin for free. It's tradition. Everybody loves it out in the Dells. Maybe you yourself have been to it. So just know throughout October, that is still going to be offered. Thanks for staying in with me solo on this episode of Wisconsin Weather Experts. I'll be right back here tomorrow at noon with plenty more to talk about, including the full moon on Monday. We'll see you then.